Remember, in the course of discussing movies, the host will spoil plots. You've been warned. Listen to their screams. Greetings, ghouls and creeps, and welcome to Listen to Their Screams, a horror podcast that feels like you're talking with friends. And I am one of your friends, Dave. I'm joined as always by one of your other friends, Ike. Ike, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I got a little bit of headache. Had a fun day at work, so my brain's a little scrambled, but I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain too much.
Yeah, they're all fun days at work, but some worse than others. But well, we have a good show for you today. We're going to talk about Quicksand. We're reviewing Quicksand today, the AMC Plus and Shudder movie that just came onto their streaming service. But before we get into that, let's do some of our other things. First off, thank you to our wives, Monica and Kayla, for all they do, all their support, their research, their help, and everything else. They will both be back on the show very soon for another edition of Wives Rebuttal, so stay tuned for that. Ike, what did you watch this week? Anything good? Anything exciting? Anything happening?
Yeah. I'll say a couple things I watched this week actually. First and foremost, it's not horror related, but last night we went and watched the new Pixar movie Elemental in theaters. It was pretty solid, really good movie. As always, Pixar hits you with those emotional roller coasters, and really they touch on some hot button issues, but it was excellent movie. Not horror related, but I just wanted to say it was really good. But horror related, I watched two movies. Nothing too crazy this week. I watched Pie Wacket on AMC Plus. It's also on Tubi. It's got a funny name, but it's actually a really good movie. A little bit of a slow burn for the first 30 minutes or so, but then I think it definitely kicks it up a notch. As Laurie Holden, who's I think probably most well known from like The Boys and Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So she's awesome. She's in it. She's pretty great. And then also I watched on Hulu, never seen it before. I watched 1 Hour Photo, which is the horror movie with Robin Williams in it. Well, more of a thriller. And I really liked it. Well, first of all, it was really nostalgic because it was a 2002 movie. So, they're like, he runs like he works in like a Walmart-esque store where they have like a photo lab type thing where they, develop photos from, actual film, not like digital. So it was really cool getting to see like all like the old school shit that they used to do to like just to develop pictures. But it was also really cool just because it really felt nostalgic. Fun fact about me, Robin Williams is, one of those actors that like he's monumental in pretty much anything he's in. So it was so cool, to see like one of someone I would consider a hero in a horror movie of all things. But he's very dearly missed. It was an excellent movie.
Yeah, it was creepy. It's always fun to see a good guy or a guy that usually plays funny characters or whatever play a villain. You get that a lot in a lot of the crime shows, right? The Law and Order shows and the Criminal Minds shows where you get guys like that play a bad guy or play a villain, and it's always neat. It always rubs you the wrong way and adds a layer to it. So
it does. It 100% does. But that's pretty much all I watched. One other thing that I was going to mention later, but I want to mention now. Friday, I'm going to see Terrifier in theaters. For fun fact, it's coming to theaters very briefly on a small theatrical release. Never been released before in theaters, so I've not watched it yet in theaters, but I will be.
Yeah, well, let's see. We record these on Wednesdays. A little peek behind the curtain there, breaking the kayfabe. So you're going Friday. See, I got you beat. To tell you the truth, because we have purchased our tickets, and as soon as we're done recording, we are going to watch it tonight. So
that is awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome. So me and Dave, we talk all the time, but I remember Dave was bummed because like none of the theaters around you have it on the weekend, and I know you were talking about potentially seeing it tonight. So I'm glad you got to go see it. But that's hilarious.
Yeah,
oh, man.
I'm leery about doing stuff on work nights. Because by the time you get to that point in the evening, I'm just like, my body's so attuned to just crashing and relaxing. and because I stay busy all day, and but I'm like, man, if I don't, I'm going to regret it. You don't, I got to start, taking opportunities, when they come up for things like this. I can't hem haul because it's a work night. So if it's something that's, it's got to be on a weekday night, then it's just got to be. So, and this is definitely something I want to do. So I wanted to make sure I didn't miss the opportunity. But yeah, the tickets are purchased, and we will, yeah, we'll be there tonight in just a little bit. So I'm pretty stoked,
Sweet.
pretty excited. I've already forewarned Monica, hey, you're not gonna like this movie, but that's okay. She's going anyway.
She's
But
ever seen Terrifier?
no, I don't believe so.
Ah,
She's not big into gory slashers. I mean, she likes
really?
slashers, but not like the real, not a lot of gore. And I'm like, oh well. I mean,
Let me know how she does with the saw part where
yeah,
the
yeah,
girl's getting sawed in half. That'll be
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. I forewarned her about that one. I told her, yeah, that's coming up. I said, it's a pretty cool kill. I said, I know that sounds odd for a guy to say, but whatever. But we'll see. We'll see. She's going for the experience and the theater food. So uh,
Right.
yeah, but and to go with me. So I told her, I said, hell, I'll go by myself if you really don't want to go. She's like, no, no, I want to go. Like, okay. I said, well, you can't, bitch about the movie afterwards. I forewarned you that you're probably not going to like it. It's not your type of movie, but we'll see. I mean, there's been odder things that's happened. So
True. Very true.
yeah. So I just watched again a lot of odd and end stuff this week. I'm still watching through the In Search of Darkness list, and I've watched a lot of movies. I'm not even keeping a list. I've got the checklist. I'm checking them off. Some of them are just not that good, and even I'm not just saying that they're, because there's a lot of bad movies I like and cheesy movies like, but they're just some, I don't know, they're just not my thing. But I'm watching through them. I'm powering through. But I mean, I get the. I'm not really rewatching anything that I've watched fairly recently or that I've watched like 100 times in my life. I'm just skipping those so I can get through them. But I am hitting a few that I've not seen for a while. So I mean, I did get to watch like Maximum Overdrive again, which I haven't seen in a while. It's been a while, so I throw those in there to make sure I get something, just in case I get on a streak. But some of these movies are, whew, they're a little tough, but that's okay. I'm watching my way through them, and that's what I've been doing. So I've watched lots of movies, but nothing that really just like jumps out or stands out. So
Right. It's usually how it is. Just watching to watch, and and you put something on the background, and I'm the same way. I'll put on those movies that, I mean, they're definitely nothing to write home about, but you just want to watch them and say you've been able to watch them. That's, for all the Phantasm lovers out there. I'm not trying to be a hater, but that's how it was for Phantasm for me. It was just I want to say that I've watched them. I want to say that I know what those movies are about, but I didn't really. Wasn't my favorite movie.
yeah, yeah, that's the way it is. I mean, I love, like I said, I love this documentary so much, and I was like, they talk about so many movies. And I'm like, you know what, and they put these checklists out there. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do it so I can say that I've this wide range of viewing, right? I mean, these are things that I would not normally on my own I would skip. So this is kind of,
Right.
it forces you out of your comfort zone, and sometimes that's good because there are a few movies that I would probably not have picked because wouldn't think I like them, and occasionally you'll watch one and be like, oh, that was pretty good, and then there's some like, yeah, I was spot on, I wouldn't have watched that. So you can't, they're not all winners, but that's okay. But at least like when it's all said and done, I can say I've done it. So I'll have that
That's
feather in
right.
my cap for what it's worth. But which I guess is nothing. A little clout for the horror podcast, but otherwise, no real world
Right. Yeah.
application. But
Hey, that's all you need is just a little clout. That's what we need on the
yeah,
show.
that's right. I mean, the things that I want bragging rights for are just odd. So I could tell people, hey, have you watched those In Search of Darkness documentaries? Yeah, I've watched all those movies then now, and we'll see. I mean, I guess some of the people that I interact with online and whatever else, and some of the scenarios that I would bring that up, they might actually be impressed by that. So it might work.
I think it will. I think it'll be good.
It's not exactly something that I'm getting, jumping on a team call for though, and at work and putting that in my email signature line, for my work emails or anything. But that's okay.
Yes, you're not winning any awards with that achievement, but it's
Ah,
fun nonetheless.
yeah, I'm enjoying myself. So, But what else is fun is our game. So let's get to it. This is our weekly segment. Top 3. And this week we're circling back around to the OG, the original one that started us all. We are here for top 3 this week. And we are going to do our top 3 favorite disaster movies. And this is kind of all encompassing because, like we said, Quicksand's kind of a form of a disaster movie. So it's not really, it is, but it isn't. But it's a nature related thing, right? It's not your typical horror movie where there's a serial killer or a demon or anything like that, or anything supernatural. And so it kind of fits the bill a little bit. So our top 3 favorite disaster movies. I bet we're going to be all over the place with this one, Mike. So let's see what we got. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready to rock and roll.
All right, well, lay it on us. What is your number 3 favorite disaster movie?
Number 3 is The Happening. The Happening is a fantastically bad movie. So this is one of M. Night Shyamalan's not so bright moments. My bad. But basically, it is about a natural disaster, a natural occurrence within nature that is causing people to commit suicide. Basically, during the movie, they kind of figure out that for whatever reason, whether it be to conserve the planet, the trees and plants are producing something that's basically making people kill themselves. And so the movie follows, our characters, and it's like honestly, it's one of those movies you watch and they kind of have to get a little creative with how people die. So I think that's really cool. But mostly, it has a lot of great people in it. It has Mark Wahlberg, Zooey Deschanel, John Leguizamo, Spencer Breslin, who's like a child actor from that time. I mean, M. Night Shyamalan made his appearance, of course. Kristen Connolly from, Cabin in the Woods fame. So a lot of really cool people. It's a good movie. It is a little goofy of a subject matter, in my opinion. It's not really realistic. And, M. Night Shyamalan's gotten a lot of shit for this movie. I'm going to be real with you. But I like this. So that's kind of my first or third, I should say, natural disaster-esque movie.
Yeah, when I was thinking through these, and I was actually discussing with Monica, and we were just bantering about it, trying to get the old brain flowing on it, and she brought up The Happening, and I'm sitting there thinking, and she was like telling me about it, and she showed me the trailer and everything else, and I'm like, you know what? I don't think I've seen this movie, and nothing struck a chord with me. Now, I'm going to watch it at some point. Once I watch it, maybe I will have watched it. Maybe I'm wrong. But like I said, she was telling me all about it, and the people in it, and I even watched the trailer with her and everything, and I don't even nothing struck a chord with me. So either I've not seen it, or it just did not stick with me at all. So I don't know, which is kind of odd. But anyway,
right.
All right. So we're moving on. My number 3 favorite disaster movie. Excuse me. From 2009, it is 2012, and this is with John Cusack in it. It's a fun movie. It's just all action, pretty much all action. And the one thing that really jumps about this movie for me that always sticks with me and that always makes it a fun watch for me is Woody Harrelson, and he plays this conspiracy theorist kind of guy who does a radio show, I think is what it is, and out of his trailer camper thing, and the scene where he's like, I'm not even sure what it is. He's facing a tidal wave. I'm not sure what it is. Where he's just standing there, like the face it up and everything. It just cracks me up. He cracks me up in it. Again, it's just your kind of your typical type disaster movie. It's all full of action, and outrun the disaster and everything else, and somebody has to be rescued in it, and it's kind of your typical outline for these kind of movies. But it was always a fun movie for me. So that is my number 3, 2012.
Yeah, I love 2012. It did make my short list, but it did not make it into my top 3. And if I remember correctly, I think it was a volcano that was happening.
That took Woody up.
They were at Yellowstone that took Woody Harrelson out. But I mean, there's, like you said, that's such a good movie. There's a lot of people in that movie. There's a shit ton of people in that movie. But I think the big thing that sticks out to me about 2012 is that like, it was kind of based on the whole like Mayan calendar thing, right? Which was like a
Yeah.
huge thing,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe for some of our listeners who were really young at the time, I don't know, maybe we have young listeners, probably not. But if we do, or maybe just for the proliferation of this concept, 2008, 2009 was this whole concept that the Mayan calendar ended in 2012. A lot of people think that they just didn't think that, the Mayan calendar wasn't extended out past 2012 or whatever. So a lot of people thought that the Mayans thought we were going to die, or that there was like this theory or whatever. So it was very interesting to see them put that into like format on like a movie. And 2012 was really, I mean, it was as far as natural disaster flicks go. I mean, this is like probably one of the Oscar-winning like natural disaster movies, if I had to say so. It had a little bit of cheese occasionally, but it was a very good movie. I like I said, it didn't make my top three just because I have some personal favorites, but definitely a runner-up for sure for me.
Yeah, my top two are big time personal comfort movie favorites for
Yeah.
me. Two of my favorite movies. So let's roll on, Ike. Then what do you have at number two for your favorite natural disaster movie?
So my number two, and I went back and forth on this, and I was trying to see if this would fit, and I think I've justified it. So obviously, maybe you haven't. I don't know. I again, I had to do a little bit of justification for this one, but I feel like it belongs. My number two is Contagion. Well, I don't remember when that's from, but Contagion, of course, is 2011. It was about a pandemic that occurs that is originated, weirdly enough, I believe in China, from Hong Kong, and it's some sort of flu. And one person catches it, brings it home. She dies. It's Gwyneth Paltrow that dies, by the way. So Dave
Yay.
probably likes this movie.
Yay.
And basically, they go through this whole process. Essentially, it's COVID-19. It's eerily similar to what happened with COVID-19, but Contagion is fantastic. It's probably one of the most surreal movies because I watched it years ago when it came out, and I hadn't watched it again in probably 10, 11 years. And my wife was like, "Hey, have you heard this movie?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's been a long time. Let's watch it." And we watched it, and me and my wife the entire time were like looking at each other like, "Holy shit, this movie is so eerily similar to what's happening right now." But anyways, it was really cool, really fun movie. I mean, not fun; it's really tragic, really, but has a lot of great actors in it. Very interesting concept, and just overall a good movie. I would say that this is probably one of the better, again, natural disaster-esque films. I would say like a pandemic could be considered a natural disaster to some respect. But yeah, that's my number two.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's a fun movie. I think it's close enough to fit. But yeah, you're right. I mean, again, I haven't seen it in a while either, but it would be a very surreal watch now. And it's like there's an episode of Supernatural where one of the angels sends Dean into an alternate timeline to show us what happens if he does whatever. But anyway, but they talk about a thing that happens or whatever, and one of the lines in it is, so when you go back, let me give you a piece of advice: hoard toilet paper like it's gold because it is. And I'm like, oh, that sounds funny. So yeah, it's a good movie. I like Contagion. And again, I haven't seen it for a long. It's been a while. I am not a Gwyneth Paltrow fan at all. Do not like her at all. So the fact that she dies, uh, it's even I don't know, bigger achievement in my book than anything else I can do. But so yeah, that brings me then to my number two favorite natural disaster movie. And again, this is one of my favorite movies of all time, from 1998. It is Armageddon. Um, the to me, it is the premier asteroid's going to smash the Earth movie. And it's got Bruce Willis. It's got Ben Affleck. It's got, God, I don't even know. It's got Owen Wilson. I don't even know who else in it. It's got so many people in it. Uh, Now, of course, the whole concept's a little wacky. That these oil drillers are going to go and blah blah blah, dig into the asteroid so they can drop, the charge into it to split it in half so that it misses and everything else. But one of my favorite aspects of it is how it doesn't give you the cop out on a big emotional moment where the Bruce Willis character has the realization of the Sunlight character in the movie, which is played by Ben Affleck, and how he loves the Bruce Willis's daughter, which he does not approve of, but he has that touching moment where he's like, okay, I'm going to accept this. I'm going to sacrifice myself so that him and my daughter can have a future, have a life. And they didn't take the cop out that a lot of movies do, where there's some way he survives. I mean, he dies, and I think it makes what he does, the whole event itself, their mission, that much more impactful and important. So, but I'm a big fan of Armageddon. I know some people love it, some people hate it, some people ridicule it. I get all that, but it is one of my favorite, a definite comfort movie for me.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen Armageddon. I have seen it, but I would say it has probably been a good 15 years since I've seen that movie. Um, you know, one of the probably it sounds bad, but probably one of the more like unused concepts is like the asteroid heading to Earth, right? You know what I mean? And nobody really takes the time to like put it into like a serious concept and put it into film. There's very few movies that I would say truly meet that aesthetic. And Armageddon does. Armageddon does a very good job of basically, I guess you could say, building up the terror or the real terror that would be involved if an asteroid was heading to Earth. And, the sense of desperation, the sense of, just absolute enthralling terror, because it's true. If this fails, what else can you do? What else can happen if this attempt to save Earth fails? And so Armageddon definitely delivers, I would say, probably one of the more like gut punch moments, like you said, with Bruce Willis's death. And it's honestly one of those movies that I hate to say that I haven't seen in so long, because I think I really do need to go back and watch it now.
Yeah. It's a definite fun movie. You don't have to overthink it. It's got, again, the cast is so great, so deep. I mean, I only named a handful. I mean, it's got Billy Bob Thornton in it. I can't even remember everybody's in it. It is such a great cast. It is a fun movie. So let's move on then to our number ones. Ike, what is your number one favorite natural disaster movie?
Whew. Well, I had to go back and forth on this a lot. I honestly almost didn't go this way, but I was like, you know what? This is a good movie. I like this movie. I haven't seen it in a while, but it's a really good, very interesting kind of movie, and it is The Day After Tomorrow. So, Day After Tomorrow is about basically just the end all be all of storms just ravages the earth. You know what I mean? And it is an absolute like devastating, storm in every aspect. There's flooding, there's snow and ice to the point where like people are dying, and it just involves this huge like adventure, right? And it's not just like a small adventure. It's like these people have to take like a trek from Washington D.C., I believe, to New York City, because they're he's trying to catch up to his son basically. And this storm, it is exponential, and honestly it's a real threat in a way, if you ask me, because it basically the Earth is put into a new ice age. And people have been saying for years that, not that we're overdue for an ice age, but that like in terms of timelines, we should be in an ice age because of when ice ages occur and how they occur, naturally. So it was very much oh wow, I guess this could technically happen, but probably won't. But in any case, a pretty interesting movie. Has a lot of stakes in it. To me, it's just again one of those movies that like I used to watch all the time as a kid. I would, like if it was on TV, I'd watch it. But we had a DVD of it. I remember that I just ran on repeat for like a good 6 months. So I just remember this movie very well. It has Jake Gyllenhaal in it, which he's a little problematic now, but at the time he was all right. Dennis Quaid's in it. Emmy Rossum from Shameless is in it. I think she's really cool. A lot of really great people in this movie. So yeah, I like Day After Tomorrow. It's a little cheesy, but it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a fun movie, and I like Dennis Quaid a lot, so that helps it in my eyes. But yeah, it is. It's it's kind of your of the time, prototypical kind of disaster movie, that they put out there, and yeah, but it is good. It's a good movie. Again, I think there was wasn't there the strained relationship between the father and the son? There's always, it seems like there's always a strained relationship in these disaster movies that gets fixed via the disaster. So I guess
Exactly.
trauma heals all wounds. I guess I don't know. Well, that brings me then to
That's
my number one, my number one favorite.
joint trauma heals all wounds. Go ahead.
That brings me to my number one favorite natural disaster movie. Again, one of my favorite movies of all time from 1996. It is Twister.
I
Um,
knew it.
yeah, I love this movie. Again, it's got a great cast. Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton in it. Philip Seymour Hoffman's in it. All kinds of people are in it. I cannot even tell you how many times I've seen this movie. I love it. Um, it is everything about this movie. It just is so fun to me. The drive-in scenes is great. I mean, just everything about it. I love the gadget, the Dorothy gadget that they made. I love the dickhead, uh, rich, weather chaser, storm chaser. That is their kind of their rival. It's just the whole thing is so much fun. I know they're making a sequel to it that is supposed to be out pretty soon called Twisters, plural. I'm curious to see what they do with it. Hopefully it does well. Because I hate when they make a sequel to a movie I love and it just does not hold up to the original. And it doesn't have to be as good, but it's just got to be decent. So we'll see. But I absolutely love Twister. One of my favorite movies of all time. Not just natural disaster, just one of my favorite movies of all time.
Absolutely. If I remember correctly, doesn't Monica like this movie too?
She does. She loves this movie.
Okay,
Yes.
I was just I'm pretty sure I remember her liking it. I have not seen Twister in a very long time, but I do remember it being good. I remember it scaring me as a kid because I used to be terrified of like tornadoes and thunderstorms. I'm still a little scared of them, but like not as bad as when I was a kid. But first and foremost, rest in peace Bill Paxton and rest in peace Philip Seymour Hoffman, who are both in this movie. Fantastic actors taken away too soon. But I mean, like you said, this movie has a crap ton of people in it, and I was just looking through, like you said, Helen Hunt, Bill Paxton, Carrie Ells, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Jake Busey. Just fantastic people in this movie. Good movie overall. Like you said, it is a little cheesy in some parts. And the whole concept of storm chasing, it's a very interesting subject. And I think in like the late 90s, early 2000s, it was like a really huge phenomenon. It's not as huge of a phenomenon now, which is a shame. But absolutely, Twister is probably hands down, I would say, a pinnacle of like natural disaster movies. Like if you were gonna watch one, Twister should probably be on your list.
I agree. So let's take a break. And when we come back, we will have upcoming birthdays, movie anniversaries, etc., etc. So stick around. Make sure you subscribe to listen to their screams on your favorite podcast platform. Also, make sure you look us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok, and Slasher. All you have to do is look up Listen to Screams. That is Listen, the number 2 in Screams, and you can find us there. Also, make sure you go and buy yourself a Listen to Their Screams t-shirt. You can find all of our shirts at tinyurl.com/Screams Shirts.
And we are back with the news. Spreading the news. All right. We have our upcoming birthdays. We have a lot of birthdays coming up. Holy shit. All right. July 21st, 1978, we have Josh Hartnett from The Faculty and Halloween H2O, as well as 30 Days a Night. Josh Hartnett is probably one of my favorite, like, 2000s horror actors. And, like, he just kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. I mean, I can't remember the last movie I've seen him in. I'm looking now, but, oh, he's in Oppenheimer. That's cool. But yeah, I mean, Josh Hartnett, I mean, I think he's awesome, honestly. Like I said, I can think of probably a dozen horror movies from the 2000s that like I love that he was in. I'm sure you like him as well, Dave.
I do, and I have a very soft spot for Halloween H2O. I think that
Yes.
is such an unheralded entry into the franchise. But yeah, I like Josh Hartnett. I'm
Yes.
not speaking for the bad haircut he had in Halloween H2O, but all things aside, it's
Oh, that's yeah. That was a pretty trash haircut. That was just, those were the days. That was the style that time. But yes, Halloween H2O is a criminally underrated Halloween movie. And if you're gonna go for a Halloween sequel, that's solid. But all right, July 21st, 1960, we have Lance Guest, who is from Jaws: The Revenge, Halloween 2, and The Last Starfighter. Honestly, I cannot place Lance Guest, but I've heard that name before. But I'm assuming that Dave likes him. I'm assuming.
I do. I love Last Starfighter. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. Jaws: The Revenge is trash, but The Last Starfighter is one of my favorite. He is one of in Halloween 2. He is one of the ambulance drivers, not the dicky, weird, creepy one, but the one that kind of has the thing for Lori and sneaks in the room and visits her and everything
Okay,
while she's
yeah.
in the hospital. That's Lance Guest. So,
Okay, yeah, I get. Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah, I mean he's cool. Like I said, I don't think I have much of an attachment to him. I think as you do because I know you like Last Starfighter. But yeah, I mean, what else can I say? I'm sure he's a cool dude. July 22nd, 1893. Holy shit, we're going back in time. We have James Whale, who is the director of Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and Invisible Man. Obviously a pioneer in the craft. And I don't have to ask Dave. I know Dave loves this guy. I'm sure. These are
yep,
great movies.
yep. He gave us Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, so he's A-okay in my book.
You're all right in my book, kid. And then July 23rd, 1961, we have the absolutely incredible Woody Harrelson from such wonderful movies as Cheers, 2012, Zombieland, The Hunger Games, Natural Born Killers. I mean, literally a billion movies that he's been in. Woody Harrelson, I love him. I think my favorite role of his, despite anything else he does, will probably be Zombieland. I love he plays Tallahassee, and he's just so funny in that movie.
Yeah, I love Woody Harrelson. We talked about him earlier with 2012, but yep, I too think he makes. I mean, all of Zombieland's good, but man, he is definitely for me the highlight.
Absolutely. Oh Lord. We also have a very timely birthday, July  24th, 1979. We have Rose Byrne from the Insidious movies. Rose Byrne, of course, was in Insidious 5, The Red Door, which came out just a couple weeks ago. So that's, if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. But Rose Byrne's great. She's in a lot of great stuff. She's an X-Men. She does all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I can't think of some of them offhand, but she's also surprisingly good in comedies when she does comedic stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, she's
Like
multi-talented.
Neighbors.
Yeah, like Neighbors and things like that. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. She's very multi-talented. That's absolutely true. All right. And then we also have another oldie but a goldie. We have July 26, 1928, Stanley Kubrick, the director of Shining, Clockwork Orange, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. Stanley Kubrick is, again, another pioneer of the craft. Despite your opinions on, like, The Shining, which Shining is better, he's, without a doubt, probably one of the most prolific creators on this earth. What else can you say?
Yep. He's great. I mean, again, those three movies. Anybody would just kill for just one of those three in their resume for their career, and he's got all three. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And then we have some upcoming anniversaries on movies. July 22nd is for three of these. Wow. July 22nd, 1983, we have Jaws 3D. I don't think I've seen Jaws 3D, but I don't like 3D movies. I don't like how they shoot 3D movies because they usually intentionally shoot them for 3D scenes, which does not translate over well to home release. But I digress. What do you think about
yeah,
Jaws?
no, it's not that great, and it overly shoots for the 3D. There's blatant 3D shot scenes. So yeah, that's definitely there for this one.
Garbo, absolute Garbo. July 22nd, 1988, Monkey Shines. I have never seen Monkey Shines. I have never even heard of Monkey Shines. You're gonna have to explain this to me, Dave.
I don't know if I've seen it or not either, or if it's been a while. I don't know. We'll just say happy anniversary and move along.
Real quick, I found it. A quadriplegic man has trained a monkey to help him with his paralysis until the little monkey begins to develop feelings and rage against this new master.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Who's in that? I think I have seen that.
It has Jason Beige,
Oh, yeah,
John
yeah. Oh,
Pankow,
yeah.
Kate
Jason
McNeil.
Jason Biggie from Chicago PD, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Who does he play in that? Oh,
He
he's
plays
like that
Hank.
main guy.
Yeah, he plays Hank, the main guy that's the head of the unit in Chicago PD.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Okay, yeah, I know that.
I think I have seen Monkey Shines, but I don't really remember a whole lot. It's been a while. So
you,
I
you
may
just
have to
pulled that
revisit
from the
that.
deep recesses of your mind.
Yeah. I may
Okay.
have to revisit that.
Wow. Yeah, I've never seen it. I'll probably have to check it out. I mean, anything to do with the pet monkey, I like. Even if it's killing the owner, I guess. Uh, let's see. Next one, we have July 22nd, 2005. We have the remake of The Devil's Rejects. I don't hate the remake. I'm not a huge fan of the Devil's Rejects movies, just generally speaking. No, wait, I'm sorry. I'm not a remake. I'm stupid. This is the Rob Zombie movie.
Yeah.
You know, up until about 5 years ago, I got the Devil's Rejects and the Hills Have Eyes confused with one another. So I was thinking of the Hills Have Eyes. So I don't know why I do that. So the Devil's Rejects is the Rob Zombie movie, which is a sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses, and I also do not like this movie.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan either. But I know there's a definite following for it out there. A lot of people, yeah, I feel like you either love or hate Rob Zombie
Right.
movies. I'm kind of lukewarm. It just depends. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this one really.
Same. I like House of a Thousand Corpses, but other than that, I'm like, eh. And then we also have on July 25th, 1986, Maximum Overdrive. Maximum Overdrive is literally killer cars from outer space. Fantastic movie. I mean, it's just great. It's a great Stephen King flick.
It is. It's fun. Like I said, I just rewatched this the other day, and it's such a fun. It's everything I like in a cheesy 80s horror movie. But yeah, it's a fun movie.
Absolutely. And then we also have an upcoming release, Haunted Mansion. This is a remake of the Haunted Mansion from the 2000s, I believe. And this is also, of course, based on the haunted attraction at Disney World or Disneyland, whichever one, or maybe
Oh,
both. I don't know.
maybe I don't know.
But
I'm
it's
not that hip on those, so I'm not sure.
I'm not either. I don't pay attention too much to it, but yeah. So Haunted Mansion is about a woman and her son who enlist a motley crew of so-called spiritual experts to help rid her home of supernatural squatters. I love the Eddie Murphy version of this from way back when, but this one's going to be really good too. This one has an all-star cast. You know,
Yeah.
Rosario Dawson, Jamie Lee Curtis, Winona Ryder, Jared Leto, I guess.
Owen
Owen
Wilson, Danny
Owen
DeVito.
Wilson, Danny DeVito. Oh my
Yes.
God, so many cool people. I'm excited for it. I'll be watching it for sure.
Yeah, it probably won't be a theater go for me, but when it hits that Disney Plus, I'll give it a watch.
Hell yeah, Disney Plus for the win. But yeah, I love the Haunted Mansion movies. That Eddie Murphy one, that's a rewatch every Halloween for us. It's just cheesy goodness is really what it is. Oh, good lord. Well, I think that pretty much does it for our upcoming releases, birthdays, and anniversaries. I said it once, I'll say it again, and I'll say it 1,000 more times. Follow us on social media. We post about this stuff when it comes up. It's a fun little reminder of the days that have passed. So check us out. You won't be disappointed. When we come back, we're going to do our review of AMC Plus / Shudder's new film, Quicksand.
Listen to Their Screams is now a Fangoria collaborator. Get 20% off your order at shop.fangoria.com by using the promo code LISTEN2SCREAMS at checkout. That is listen, the number 2, and screams. Or you can click the link in the show notes. All right, and we're back here on Listen to Their Screams, and it is time for our weekly review. And this week, as Ike mentioned, we're reviewing Quicksand, that is out now on AMC Plus or Shudder. It is a married couple who is almost divorcing, become trapped in quicksand while hiking through a rainforest in Colombia. They will battle the elements of the jungle and must work together in order to survive. It is written by Matt Pitts, directed by Andres Beltran, starring Carolina Gayden, Alan Halko, and Sebastian Islavia. So I didn't know what to think going into this movie, right? I thought I could be okay. We knew that it would the bulk of the movie, right, is going to be kind of a one scene shot, right? It's going to focus around primarily around the quicksand, and they did mix it up good. There was some other stuff too, but again, it's these movies are often hit or miss, right? Whether they can make it work, whether it can have a little originality in it at all, or if it just feels like the same old stuff. So I didn't know what to expect really going in. I was hopeful, and I thought it could be fun, but we'll see. And I have to say that I was overly surprised by how much I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was very, very clever. Um, I like how, because as I watched it, right, there was again, it did the old deal where there was the two people who are separated, fixing a divorce, and of course the disaster, the event is going to help get fixed, like what we just said. Apparently trauma heals all wounds, and but then they doing this thing where they're going to this conference that she's going to speak at, and he goes along because they have the mutual friend, which I guess is primarily his friend, but anyway, and they're visiting him, and it's in Colombia, and then they're going to go on this hike with him, and he doesn't show, so they just go on it. And but when they get there and they hike some, right, and they go back to the car, and their car's being broke into, and there's this whole thing with him. And I thought, what the hell is this? What does this got to do with anything? And but then I forgot that was one of the guys from at the beginning of the movie that was kind of what I guess poaching or hunting snakes or whatever. And so I like how they tied that in, but I like that approach to set up the trauma in it, right? Because the people are telling them, oh, don't hike this way, right? Because there's snakes and there's all these things, and they're like, okay, we won't. So I like how they kind of did this approach to get them into that situation. I thought it worked instead of this, them being stubborn and just going ahead and doing it, right? It was kind of a fight for your life. They didn't really have another choice. And I just thought, I don't know. I thought there was the guy in the quicksand that died, who I think was one of the other poacher from the beginning of the movie. And I just thought I felt like they did lots of things to help the tension and peak with the ants and the snake and everything else. I thought they did well to take something that you think could be really limited because it's just quicksand and make it really, really tension filled and to build that tension. My one thing that I wish they had done differently, and we talked about this earlier with Armageddon a little bit. I really, and this maybe this reflects badly on me that I'm going to say this. I really wish they had the husband die, because they got to the point where she got out and went to get help and was going because he couldn't move because he got bit by the snake. And I kind of wish, I don't know. I guess I get tired of that. Oh, the happy ending and everything's fine. I guess I wanted a little touch of the despair in it, and that, well, she survived and came out, and she appreciates what she had with him a little more. Yeah, I don't know. And I think it would have also not then played into the whole this traumatic incident healed their marriage, so to speak. If he had died, she could have been appreciative of him and everything else, but it didn't fix their problems. So I don't know. I guess I kind of wish they just let him die. And that when they're at the end, I was hoping they're at the end when they were carrying him in that it was just going to be a body, but then he raised his head, and I was like, okay. But overall, I'm rambling on this. Overall, I really thought it was a fun movie. I think even more so than I hoped going into it. I think I enjoyed it a lot more than I anticipated. So what did you think of it, Ike?
Absolutely. So, like you said, I think that I had probably some preconceived notions about this movie. Like you said, the small scope, which it did accomplish. But I think overall, like you said, I would agree that I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. A couple of things that I wanted to throw out there to kind of touch on, similar to what you touched on. First and foremost, is it exposition maybe? Disposition? No, exposition sounds right. The kind of beginning, I'm trying to remember my literary terms here. The exposition to kind of lead up to them getting in the quicksand, it made sense, right? They didn't just happen upon quicksand. They made it known that there was a dangerous part of this jungle area that has some quicksand, and it's not unrealistic quicksand. It's not like what you'd see in old cartoons or like in Indiana Jones or anything like that. It's realistic quicksand. This is how quicksand actually works. They're not just
Yeah,
going to sink down into there indefinitely. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
He even explained the concept of quicksand and how it worked and what it was, and I like that. It was refreshing. It wasn't just this trope of, oh, they're going to sink away and disappear. And
Right.
the problems and the fears were very realistic, right? The temperature and all that stuff. So yeah, I like how they had a very realistic approach to the quicksand.
Absolutely. And that's what I was going to say is that it wasn't like a cartoonish or cheesy approach. It was very realistic. So you have this very realistic approach to quicksand. Honestly, I'm assuming that the guy who they found in there with the shotgun, I'm wondering if the guy who was like robbing them didn't kill him, because I don't think that he didn't fall into the quicksand in the beginning. I think that he just happened upon like a skeleton in the quicksand. Um, but then because he had a shotgun, and then that's the reason we know it's the same person is because they found a shotgun in the quicksand.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if like the guy who was trying to rob them didn't kill that other guy to kind of prevent him from talking about the corpse because they found a corpse. So I'm
Yeah,
wondering if
I
that's
assumed
like
he
kind of the
did.
background.
Yeah,
Right.
I assumed, and it may have been there, maybe I missed it, because they did talk a little bit about him when they first found him, and they said something about how he looked and died. So I don't know if
Yeah, they
that was
did.
maybe a reference to how he probably didn't drown or whatever in the quicksand, that he was dead going into it or something. And then I don't know later when they had the other guy, kind of they had arrested him if maybe because he was telling the story about it a little bit. So there could have been a little more to it that I missed, but that's what I assumed too, that he had killed him and kind of maybe dumped his body in there or he had fallen in there or something.
Right. And then I think another good thing that I appreciate about this movie is that they didn't depict the snake in a negative light. The snake was simply protecting its young. So it wasn't like, because I hate when movies needlessly depict animals as violent, because realistically the snake is not violent. The snake would do nothing. It would leave you alone unless you're fucking with it or you're fucking with its babies. And that's exactly what happened. They were close to the nest, the snake felt threatened, and the snake bit them. And same thing with the ants. They were near an anthill. The ants felt threatened, the ants attacked. You know what I mean? And so to me, I appreciate when they do realism, especially in animal or natural disaster related movies, because so more often than not, you get these natural disaster esque movies or these animal related movies, and they basically throw common sense and logic right out the window. They're like, this bear is gonna attack everybody or some shit. Now I'm not shitting on Cocaine Bear because that's real shit right there. But
But
but I appreciate that they did it realistically. They were near the nest. That's how they got the snake to come back. You know what I mean? They attacked the nest, and that prompted the snake to be like, okay, if you're gonna fuck with my nest, I'm gonna come and bite you again. And they also depicted realistically what happens when you are bit by a snake. You don't just like start foaming at the mouth immediately. It's a slow process. The venom is going to take a while to get in your veins, coagulate your blood. And one of the coolest things about this movie that I really also thought was really cool, that I also appreciated, is that they didn't make this woman like some expert surgeon. She was like, I haven't practiced medicine in like a decade, but I'm going to try my best to not kill you and keep you from dying and get the blood clot out of your throat. Um, and she did it. She did it. But like you said, I think that they could have killed the guy, but I do appreciate that they didn't just make him fine. Like, he was obviously severely injured. Like, he
yeah,
couldn't get out of the quicksand. There was no way to get him out. He couldn't move. He was completely immobile because of his injuries. So it was realistic. But I also thought it was interesting that they used the snake as like rope. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, that's actually kind of creative. And snakes are pretty durable creatures, so I think it could work in real life. But I just felt like when I was watching this movie, I didn't really have to suspend much belief. You know what I mean? It seemed
Yeah.
all very believable.
Yeah, and when she got out, it wasn't just she was fine. She just took off sprinting. She was still struggling, right? She was still had these effects.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that she went out and there happened upon someone or something. There was the whole other side of it going on where their friend put two and two together, figured out, something had happened and was coming from the other way. So there was the meat in the middle. It spelled out perfectly. I loved I love the fact that when they're at the dinner and they're chatting about the blah 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 and everything else, and he's like, oh, are you still using that old pack? He's like, oh yeah, the old pack with the duct tape. Yeah, that's my lucky pack, whatever else. And they played it in where it ended up being a very deliberate thing to put in there because it came back
Yeah.
into it, but it didn't feel like it, right? It felt like part of the conversation. And I really didn't think anything of it at all. Because he had mentioned the pack earlier. He's like, because they didn't think they were going to have time. But he's like, well, I brought my pack, hoping. And then the guy's sitting there when he's realizing something must have happened. I don't know where they're at. And he sees the guy walk in and he sees the guy has the backpack with the duct tape. And that's what triggered. And I thought, man, that worked. That was clever. And they didn't make it feel that it was really forced. I really didn't think anything of it when they mentioned the backpack. I just thought it was just part of their conversation of they were trying to play like everything was okay and have a conversation at dinner before he told them that they had split up. And then it came back to be a really key part. And I was like, oh, that was cool. I like that they did that. And I just, like I said, there was nothing about this movie that felt artificial for me. It felt very, and perhaps, I mean, I'm not an expert on any of these things, so perhaps they did take a few liberties. I don't know, but it didn't feel like it. To the untrained eye, it felt very believable. The tension was natural, because there's something to be said for being a situation where if you were in that scenario, you could be in it, and it could, and you think about it, but it's like, well, hell, I probably wouldn't be able to do the things they're doing, and and I like, and I guess the only reason I mentioned him dying is just because so they didn't do that. Oh, they're going to be okay as a couple type thing, which they don't out and out say that, but they kind of imply it because they do say they love each other. But I do like that it didn't just jump to that, right? They're like, oh, we're screwed. Oh, you know what? We were wrong. I love you. There was still struggle in their relationship while they were in this quicksand, where she found out where she had thought he had given up drinking, but he had stuck vodka. And she was upset about this. And there was still tension, right? There was still these things where when they're in there and where he asked her, why did you come on this hike? Why, when you said you didn't want to spend time with me, why did you come? And I was thinking, well, he's asking because he's hopeful that maybe she really did want to spend time. And she was like, oh, so what? You're thinking because I asked and because I came now, it's my fault. So they still kept that tension in the relationship, even in the tension, in this situation, which I like that. They didn't completely make everything just fine between them. They were still not forgetful of why they were struggling while they were in this. But then they did a very good job of saying, okay, well, we have to do this, right? We have to table this for now, get out of here. I like that they both had their moments of panicking. And one thing that I really, really liked is that they made her the strong one. She was the one that held it together, got out, got the help. He was the one that was starting to fall apart and was starting to feel like we're done. There's just nothing we can do. You can't do anything. Maybe this is just it. I just like that they made her the strong character when a lot of times creators just default to the guy, right? He's got to rescue the lady, and
Right.
it didn't happen that way. This right? She rescued him, and and she was the one that stayed persistent and thought of using the snake and thought things through and fixed the blood clot in his neck. And she was the one that, despite it all and despite the fact that she was struggling with the situation, she pulled it together one step at a time and came through. And and I don't know, they did so many things right where she was struggling because she gave up her career to raise their kids. And I like that he came to the realization of, you know what, you're right. I didn't acknowledge what you had to give up for this, but our kids are better for it, and I thank you for that. I thought that was a very real moment, right? And that's something that real people struggle with. And man, and I thought they acted it well, and it felt so believable, and good. It really surprised me. I just did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did, and I can hands down say that I will probably rewatch this movie at some point. That I enjoyed it that
Yeah.
much, and it
No,
really
absolutely.
surprised me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I do want to comment on one thing you said. Something you said kind of stuck out to me. But it's something that we've talked about a lot with some other movies that have really ranked highly for us is that this movie purposefully subverts your expectations, right? The whole time you're thinking, okay, guy's going to get the girl out of this, or this is going to happen, or that's going to happen. But this movie consistently subverts those sort of expectations you have of a movie involving quicksand, or a movie involving two people in danger and needing saved. And it very much, I feel like, goes against the mold. And I feel like that's part of why the movie ended up being so good and why it maybe stuck out as much to us, because the movie provides a substantial, I would say, difference from other movies in its genre. And I feel like that's probably one of the biggest things that I can say about this movie is that it truly went out of its way to be unique in its own. Even though quicksand movies are a dime a dozen, I'm sure, this movie purposefully portrays quicksand in a realistic light with two fantastic actors who were absolutely amazing. I've never really seen them in anything else. I know that the guy is from like Jack Ryan, I think, and the girl is from she's from Encanto. She plays
Yeah.
Peppa, which is one of the like aunts, I believe, or something like that. But it's like this movie, in my opinion, truly gave you what I would say is the probably one of the most realistic depictions of not only like snake attacks, but of like quicksand and ant attacks and being stuck in the elements. And it just checked off all those boxes for me for realism that I was not expecting it to check off.
Yeah, and and you watch a movie like this, and when you saw it unfold, you thought, oh, either the friend's going to find them just in the nick of time, or they're going to get out just in the nick of time, or something, right? And it was a little bit of both, right? That the friend was coming, did meet them part way, so he was trying, and
Right.
and she got out, but they didn't both get out, right? So even to the end, they kind of kept that suspense of, well, what about him? What about him? Did he make it? Did he die? Do they find him? And I think man, they did a really really good job. Um, and again, but within realism, it's not like this is a hugely groundbreaking movie, right? There are other movies have done this, and
Right.
the concept of the movie itself is not necessarily that original. They did a very fresh take on it. So let's rate this thing, Ike. Um, I've raved on it and whatever else, but again, I can't put it up there with some movies that are really really over the top. But to me, this is a very very strong 3.5 out of 5 screams for me. I really really enjoyed it, but I don't think it breaks enough ground and is that original or whatever or that perfect that it would get a 4 quite there yet. So, but it's a strong 3.5. Like I said, I really really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's not a four. You know what I mean? As much as I like this movie, as well as it portrayed to me and as well as it, connected with me, it's not a four. Four, that's in the level of Skinamarink and Terrifier 2. That's what I always like to say. Those are the benchmarks. That's the measuring stick that we have to use because, that's up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not a four, but it is a strong 3.5 because not only did I enjoy this movie, but this movie went above and beyond, in my opinion. Not a 4 above and beyond, but a 3.5 nonetheless.
Yeah, I agree. So I definitely, definitely highly suggest that everybody go out and give this a watch. Again, it's on AMC Plus or Shudder. I don't think it'll disappoint you. I think it has a lot to offer a lot of people. Even if you're not a big horror fan, I just think this has a lot of broad appeal and a lot of general audience appeal. I really do. And that brings us to wrapping up the episode. And next week, we're going to review Natty Knox. Now, we will preface this by saying that it says that it is going to have a streaming release simultaneous to its limited theater release. So long as everything goes as planned and what they're saying, we will be reviewing Natty Knox. If something happens, something changes with the studio, they doesn't get the release gets pushed, anything like that, we won't be doing Natty Knox. We'll come up with something else. But we will be here nonetheless next week. But as of now, the plan is Natty Knox. So, Ike, before we close things up, anything you want to throw in there or add?
So I was contemplating saying something else earlier, but I feel like since we're at the end, I mean, if somebody's stuck around this long, they can just, close out at this point. But I just want to say, for those people out there who maybe are a part of this group, I just want to say I'm fully supporting the Writers Guild and the SAG-AFTRA strike. I feel like it's important as a horror podcast that we support the people who make this content. And, I think that the strike is incredibly important so that way they get paid what they need to get paid to write movies that we love. So
Absolutely.
I know that it's, postponing some movies and film releases and things like that. I know that Terrifier 3 production I heard got pushed back. But I just want to say, as much as I'm excited for Terrifier 3, I want those motherfuckers to get paid. First and foremost.
Yeah. I mean, everybody assumes that if you're involved with these things and you're writing or even acting, that you're just rolling in the money. And there's lots of stories that's not true, right? People are not getting a lot on the residuals and this and that. And there's people who are quote unquote popular or successful who are losing their homes and don't have money. I mean, this is not a case of a, multi-billionaire top level actor. That's not what this is for.
Right.
This is, for everybody else. But I will say that the vast majority of even those top billionaire actors, they know how important this is and they're all supportive of it as well. So this is, it is what it is. We love the movies. We love the shows. We obviously love the actors, but man, the heart and soul of these things are the writers. And without them, there's no material, right? I mean, we've seen lots of really, really good actors in some really crappy movies. Well, that's the difference that writing makes and all that. So absolutely. Yes. So make sure you subscribe to us on whatever platform you listen to us, and make sure you follow us on the social media links that were mentioned earlier. And until next week, I'm Dave. That's Ike. But wherever you go and whatever you do, be good, be safe, and have many pleasant nightmares.